this is like letting go. You know what I mean? This is the part where it starts to let go of it. Damn it. Number 10, The Survivors.
I didn't kill just one Husnok or 100 or 1,000. I killed them all.
I rewatched the episode last night and a little more open-mindedness about like, yeah, and just trying to remember there was this entire colony that was wiped out, and except for these two people, like the Enterprise isn't just gonna move on. And like watching with that in my head this time, and just watching like the subtle hints and clues, I'm like, this is a great Star Trek episode, and I love the ending. How it's a god who has regretted what he's done. He's killed all these people. Directed by Les Landau. Episode 3, right?
Yeah.
And I think it was the first good one of this. I mean, the first two were okay, and Sense of Command and.
I didn't like Evolution, the first one with Dr. Stubbs, but Ensigns of Command I did enjoy. But yeah, this one was good, and I also thought, I said in our discussion of the season that, man, I wish sometimes TNG would have episodes where it's just based on a lesson, or like based on, this is the thing. This is actually one of those rare episodes. Like, it really is just about this guy and like what he does, what he did to this planet because of his wife. The Star Trek cast is kind of like guests in this plot. It is kind of more so similar to TOS. I always liked the episode. It just wasn't like, I think 10 is fair, just making your list. I think it's like, it didn't hit out of the park for me, but I was like, oh, like that's a solid one. But it doesn't evoke any like huge reactions from us.
It's one of my favorite Picard lines. We have no law to fit your crime. It's like, oh God. And then Troy just, poor Troy in her music box.
Yeah, you're right. I didn't care for the episode. Maybe let's spice it up. I'll go with the patrons in between us.
Oh, okay.
And I think that'll actually be fitting for this one because their number 10 is also The Survivors.
Hey, I know I liked you guys.
And just for clarity, so for our Patreon, our top tier of patrons, our target demographic tier patrons, get to submit their top episodes for every season of Star Trek we watch. We amalgamate them all together and weight the scores, and then that's how we get the top 10 list. So this is coming from, we have close to 200 patrons in that tier, so obviously not all of them participated, but this is coming from the majority of them. I know that they definitely liked The Survivors more than it seemed that we liked it. Again, from our reaction, it wasn't like a yesterday's Enterprise, like Sarek reaction, but it's just more of a thinker. It's more of like, this is the type of episode where I like that we do discussions, because it's like, let's dive into it a little bit more.
Good tea. Nice house.
My number 10, The Price.
I sensed no tension from you or Gus.
What? I was tense. I was ready to blow it up.
As the season has gone on, I like The Price more and more. This is the one with the everyone trying to negotiate over the wormhole. Troy having the relationship with Raul, the quarter Betazoid negotiator. And yeah, it's goofy. There's silly moments. A 10-second shot of Troy's foot. The yoga scene. Like, it's weird. But there's a few things that I really liked about it on first watch, and that's, first of all, they perfected the Ferengi. Like, please just have the Ferengi be what they were in this episode. This is my benchmark for them moving forward in the franchise. And also, just this idea of everyone negotiating on this thing in space is truly a unique concept we haven't seen before yet in Star Trek. So that's cool to see. And a Troy episode where she actually gets like a romance that's not taken away from her because the guy's in love with someone else that he draws. Like, she chooses to leave him. He's truly into her because of their conflict. So yeah, it's not the best episode, but I had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, or a baby that chooses to leave her.
Oh yeah, I must go now.
And you expect us to believe what you report?
Then send in your own probe, Gus.
Number 9 for me. This one might be higher for you, but it's a tough list. Number 9 for me is Sins of the Father.
The response I would expect. My older brother.
Really?
Yeah, I think you love this one a lot more than me. I like the episode a lot. I kind of already said this in when we watched it, but my feelings haven't really changed. Like, it did change the plot, flip the script really well, probably the best in this franchise thus far, where it didn't lose me after changing the plot so many times. But there is that part of me that did wish it had just been the Worf and his brother episode. What we got was still awesome, but I would have loved to see that, and also the whole storyline with Picard and the old woman just like beyond that, it was basically perfect, and I loved everything else about it. But it just didn't. It was like right on that precipice for me of like this might still for me be an S tier. That's how good this list is. But like, it's not. There's other ones I liked more, obviously.
That is 9. Oh my. Oh my God.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll talk about it more later.
Ci lažneš. Teach ket jagmijaj. Accept.
The patrons had number 9. The Enemy. This is the one with Geordi down on the planet, the enemy mine type plot with the Romulan, and also obviously the Worf storyline of giving the blood to the Romulans. So they had that at number 9.
They had that at number 9?
Yeah.
Well, guess what my number 9 is? The Enemy.
Wow.
You are my prisoner!
Right. Congratulations.
This happens a lot, I feel like.
It does.
It's funny because you come off as more like different than them in the reactions, I feel like, but then like when we get to the list, it's like the same every time.
Yeah, no, I rewatched The Enemy too within the past 2 nights, and Geordi is just hilarious in it. It's like, you're my prisoner. Congratulations. It's like, oh, you're lying. It's like, I don't lie when there's sand in my boot. It's like, and then actually having a nice coming together storyline with like a Romulan since the first time, since like Balance of Terror was almost there, where Sarek as the Romulan says, maybe in another life I could have called you friend, and just seeing a Romulan and Geordi like work this out together. Riker's all pissed off again, like, where is he? Where's Geordi? He's almost yelling at the captain. It's like, holy shit. Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and the moment with the Romulan and Geordi at the end when they come back up and the Romulan goes, "This human saved my life," or something along those lines.
Yeah. It's like
a rare Romulan W.
So I thought for sure, oh, they kidnapped me.
Yeah.
And it's the same one with Worf too.
Yeah, with the blood. Yeah.
Oh, one of my favorite scenes with him and Picard, where it's like, I don't want to order you to do it, and then and he says no, and then later, the same scene, Picard goes, "Lieutenant, all official," and then Worf, "Yes, sir." You're dismissed. It's like, oh God.
Good.
This Romulan didn't murder your parents, and you are the only one who can save his life.
Then he will die.
My 8, a matter of perspective.
Nice. I'm glad they made yours.
She was lying. You could tell.
Well, I didn't sense any deception from her.
A Cliff Bowl classic. Yeah, I know this has been a story that's been done other times in other media, but this is one of the first times I can recall seeing it. And it's Star Trek, so they get to use their tools to tell the story and see the same people play different versions of the same character, doing different things in the same circumstances. Just a lot of fun.
I'm going to report this, Riker. You can count on that.
You're a dead man, Apgar. A dead man.
The patrons had number 8. Who Watches the Watchers? This is the one where Picard gets mistaken for a god. Troy and Riker get to dress up as this Vulcan Romulan offshoot species.
The Mintakans?
Mintakans, yeah, good call. And yeah, I had a lot of fun with that one too. I think that it makes sense to be number 8 on their list. It's a fun one. Vasquez Rock's location comes back. The shooting location.
Was that official? Did they confirm that? Okay, cool.
Yeah, and there was some kind of weird, goofy stuff like when the Mintakans discover the fucking thing they had in the mountain. Like, why was that the thing? But I liked it.
Picard basically calling religion the Dark Ages, what else? The guy being like such like Picard Glazer and just like thinking this is what he wants. Oh, you want me to kill them?
Yeah,
it's like,
and that was guest star Ray Wise. Yeah, and it literally takes an arrow. My number 8, A Matter of Perspective.
Hey!
3 seconds later, the space station exploded.
When I first watched this, I treated it like it was the best thing in the world. I still love it, but I obviously, it's not going to be in my top 3 or anything for this season. I just think it's I think I've called it a guilty pleasure before, but, sometimes guilty pleasure indicates that, you're aware it's bad. I fully defend this as a really good episode. It's well written. It's well executed. Great guest characters, great guest makeup, and all of it. Probably top 3, if not top 2. Best use of the holodeck, in my opinion. Getting to see our characters interact with a recreation of themselves. So yeah, I loved a lot about it. I get it, it's not a favorite for many people, but I really loved it. My number 7. I think this is definitely going to be my first hot take of the list. Maybe Sins of the Father was, I don't know. But my number 7, Best of Both Worlds, the finale of the season.
Okay.
I am Locutus of Borg. Resistance is futile.
Really great, best season finale by far. Awesome to see a cliffhanger in Star Trek. We're at the point of the list now where this is all S tier, in my opinion. I mean, it's kind of outrageous to say for 7 episodes, but like I have trouble finding flaws with any of them. This one's just the one I like the least out of the 7, and it's not because there's anything wrong with it. It's just like that's just how I feel, and it's going to be hard to even justify it as we go through the rest of the list, like each individual selection, because it's like I don't know, that's just how I feel. And it's like for this one, it's number 7.
You do an end run around me again, I'll snap you back so hard you'll think you're a first-year cadet again.
And then we had number 7 for the patrons, Hollow Pursuits.
Okay.
I was shocked they made their list. This is my Let's Take Credit episode of the season. We are the reason it made their list.
That's good. Okay, my number 7. You know, I said I would talk about it eventually. That's because I'm going to talk about it now. My number 7 is the Best of Both Worlds.
Wow! So we're both way off from the audience, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. Cliff Bowl!
Cliff Bowl.
I'm afraid I cannot answer that, Wesley. And as you are a newcomer to the game, may I say, it is inappropriate for you to ask.
Yeah, Best of Both Worlds. Probably my favorite ending to a TNG episode ever, despite all of our expletive terms afterwards. Seeing Riker in a different light, finally. I mean, we've seen angry Riker, and we've seen, you know that Riker, but seeing, what am I doing, Riker, and a guest star who comes in and pretty much beats his ass, and it's awesome. And Picard is a Borg.
Yeah.
It's great.
Locutus. And also, last note on that, patron Andreas, I think, pointed out that once we do see this conclusion of the episode, it might be easier to kind of like think about it as a whole, because we've only seen really the first half of this story.
Yeah.
That kind of robs it when it comes to making a list, because it's like putting Dune Part 1 on a list, right? Like it's like the rest of these are full stories in their own respective episodes, so that's probably why it's not as high up for us. And also, like, yeah, the experience of watching it was awesome, but like me personally, I'm not really ranking these based on like my reaction. Definitely plays a part, like how it felt watching it, but it's like which of these going forward am I going to love the most and like rewatch and those things. And like Best of Both Worlds, maybe I'll feel differently after we watch that second part, so I just don't know yet.
Okay.
It comes down to a simple question. What do you want, Will Riker?
Yeah, it's getting we're getting up there.
You're starting to change them in your head as you're
I'm
looking
starting.
at the list.
I'm starting like, oh wait. My number 6 is Sarek.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
Bringing Sarek in there, Les Lando, bringing him back. Yeah, not just for like a cheap, oh look, there he is, like making him a core part of the episode and what it's like to get old and like the mystery story of what's happening. It's like, is this some sort of ruse by one of these people helping Sarek? And it's like, no, the guy's just getting old. We're trying to help him here. And that great moment with Picard letting out all that feeling that Sarek has without Sarek having to do it himself. I think that's genius. Because hearing him say, he loves his family, loves Spock, loves his first wife, and just having all that come out through Picard is just a great tool, and that great moment they have together at the end.
Yeah. Was that tough for you to put at 6, or were you pretty firm in that?
I struggled with this list. I almost, I was sitting there a while just looking at the episodes. I'm like, to the point where I'm just like, just started listing them. But
you gotta go by gut instinct. Yeah, it's a great one.
Yeah, I can't just sit there and look at it forever.
Did you know how much I love you?
Number 6 for the patrons was The Defector. This is probably my first surprise. Obviously, neither of us have said this one yet, so we can wait to talk about it. But I will say, patron Anthony said there were 6 episodes better than The Defector, and it's the patron's number 6. So I guess they mostly agree with him, but not all the way.
Mostly agree, yeah.
And my number 6 is not The Defector, so assuming that we both have it on our lists, I think we ultimately did not agree with that assessment that there were 6 better than it, because assuming it's on our list, it's above that. But number 6 for me is yesterday's Enterprise.
Lieutenant, what are their sensor readings? Is that an enemy vessel?
Okay.
Again, amazing. The moment of Tasha arriving, amazing. It's funny because like doing this list, it's feeling more like instead of just going straight into gushing about the episode, it's like I have to defend myself on every one because it's like, here's why this isn't number 1. Here's why this isn't number 1. But no, I loved everything about it. All the Guinan stuff was awesome. Her being the one that like realized something was going on, but the fact that they didn't do like a fish out of water, like it was Guinan from that universe, that timeline, but she knew something was up. The scene with her and Tasha in 10 Forward where she's like, you know, what happens to me? And she tells her, like, you're dead, you know? All that was great. Never thought we would have seen Tasha back, and if we did, it would have been like the TNG movies or something. Like, I would not have thought that was going to happen, so.
Yeah, no, not in the show.
But 22 years ago, one ship could have stopped this war before it started.
And then my number 5, getting into the top 5, is Sarek.
Where do you think you're going?
Away from you.
Oh, okay.
So I put it one above you, but I feel basically the same as you about it. It's like, obviously, Mark Leonard. You know, we talk about Tasha, Mark Leonard showing up. It's like, of course, you know, amazing pop, and just he could have come in and it could have been a shitty episode. And as a matter of fact, I was worried after he showed up, like, oh no, is this going to be a bad episode? Like, but no, it ended up being excellent because of Mark Leonard, but because of everything else too. And might be Patrick Stewart's best performance thus far. He was also really great in yesterday's Enterprise, but in Sarek, I mean, obviously, hits it out of the park.
Yeah, for sure.
He loves you.
I know. I've always known.
Their number 5 was The Offspring. Neither of us have talked about that one either yet, but that makes their top 5. I wonder if my tier had anything to do with it. No.
No, not really. All right. Which leads to my number 5. My number 5 is The Defector.
It's a bitter thing to be exiled from your own home.
It does appear unlikely you will ever be allowed to return to your planet.
Nice, nice.
I rewatched that one again, and I love this Romulan guy. He's like the most humane Romulan. Like he's like an actual character. I love every scene with him and Data, him and Worf, and like where they're jabbing at each other, and then like Worf leaves, and the guy goes, you know, I like him. It's like most Romulans, like, oh, yo, shit, you know, like this guy, and the whole twist of that same guy from The Enemy being back, and this is all a ruse to like get this guy out there and for like an excuse to start this this war, and the stuff about him talking to Picard about never seeing his daughter. It's like my daughter will die. My daughter will live thinking I'm a traitor, but she'll live. It's like, oh god.
But then it's just all a ruse.
It's all a ruse.
And then, I even saw some comments where they were like, you know, he left that letter for them, which is a nice little hopeful ending, but some people were saying, like, he probably knows, like, his family's probably cooked as well.
Oh, God,
they
yeah.
probably killed the whole bloodline after that. So, hopefully not, but, damn.
Saw the Romulan homeworld, too, in the holodeck, also.
Yeah, that was awesome.
A little bit zoomed out. I'd like to see a little more street level, but, yeah.
Yeah, and the scene of him in the empty holodeck. This is my home.
Yeah, this is who I am now.
She will grow up believing that her father is a traitor, but she will grow up.
My number 4 is Hollow Pursuits.
Picard has a problem with me. You tell him to come and talk to me himself.
Nice.
Cliff Bowl! No, yeah, I love this episode. Just a lower level guy in the Enterprise is trying to make it. One of the best opening hooks, in my opinion, with the holodeck. Broccoli as a character is great. Get to see our characters or our actors act in the holodeck as these weird, goofy people. It's a lot of fun. I called, like, should I be using gloves to use that? And that ended up leading to the whole thing. I love the whole slow chain of events where in my mind I'm thinking, oh, great, what's going on at the Enterprise for no reason now? But it's directly led into the whole plot of where they're going. Yeah, I love that episode.
Yeah, I agree. And number 4 for the patrons is Sarek. So they liked it just a little bit more than us.
Makes sense.
But basically right in line. And for the patrons, on the scoring on this, there's a huge jump once you get to number 6, The Defector. And then The Defector, Offspring and Sarek are like within single digits, so they're all right around the same for them.
That makes sense.
All right, my number 4, the bonding.
Yeah!
On the Starship Enterprise, no one is alone.
I love the bonding, obviously we both did. I didn't cry during that one, but I came close, but it was also just a mind-blowing of like, what the hell's happening? We've never seen anything like this. A random character we didn't know dies before the episode really even starts, and then it's just the grief. You know, I think you had your famous quote in that one where you're like, I just want 45 minutes of grief. You know, and they did introduce a little bit of a plot, but it didn't like completely derail the whole thing, and it ended where it needed to end. You know, back to Worf and Jeremy Astor and their whole thing about both being orphans. You're an orphan, I'm an orphan. Just excellent.
You're now brothers.
But should not the feelings run just as deep, regardless of who has died?
Human history would be a lot less bloody.
Number 3 is The Offspring.
I love you, Father.
I wish I could feel it with you.
I will feel it for both of us. Thank you for my life.
There's probably some people who thought that was going to be my number 1 because it's the first time and only time I've cried, but it's not. But yeah, I don't have a negative thing to ever say about this episode. It was an experience I've never had watching Star Trek. It was so visceral and emotional for Data, an android, and Law, an android, who died because she started having emotions. I mean, and for it to be Lizzie McGuire's mom, above all. It's just crazy to me. But I even made an edit, you know, for Law.
You made an edit for Law, yeah.
Yeah, and the whole thing was excellent.
I learned today that humans like to hold hands. It is a symbolic gesture of affection.
Number 3 for the patrons, Sins of the Father.
Okay.
So they had that in their top 3. What about you? What's your number 3?
My number 3. My number 3 is Yesterday's Enterprise.
I'd like my death to count for something.
Permission granted.
Different outfits, there's subtle acting changes. We got Shooter McGavin with this other ship on the Enterprise C. We have a more justified great ending with Shooter McGavin's character and Tasha Yar dying a better way. You already mentioned the stuff with Guinan being the one to be like, something's not right. I love the whole mirror universe twist where that's what you think, but it's like, no, this is the same universe. It's just like the Back to the Future effect. One thing goes wrong and just new timeline. Yeah, just convincing this Guinan having to convince everyone that this is wrong when it's like in their reality they don't know that. They've no, because that's now their reality.
Jordy, tell me about Tasha Yar.
I had to say, picking the top 2 was probably the hardest thing I had to do because I love both of these so much, and they both involve a character I love so much. You can say I have the bonding with it.
Can't even remember what his face looks like.
I can't get his face out of my mind.
The episode. Number 2 is the bonding. When Rich
Wow.
Colby. Yeah, I love the bonding to death. I've never been moved by a story so much at the end of an episode ever. Just 2 orphan kids coming together and like becoming brothers, and I'm getting emotional just thinking about it. It's just Worf and this kid, and it's weird because this kid plays an asshole in RoboCop 2, but like this kid's performance is great. I don't really care much about. I get the whole reason that this shapeshifter apparition species felt bad about the mother dying, so that's why they want to take the kid. Whatever, that's fine. But the grief of this episode, Star Trek therapy, not just with Worf and this kid, but like everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone. It's just like I just needed that so bad, and I was like, the tears that I had just at that end in that weird blue room that Worf has when he puts the sash on him. I'm like, God damn it. Yeah.
Yeah, first of all, I definitely, going into this, thought that'd be your number 1. So I get it, because I know what your number 1 is, so I get it. But yeah, this was great. And this is one of the ones I went back and watched our reaction to it on YouTube. And, you know, when in the middle of the episode, we look at each other and say, like, this is fucking amazing. What is going on? Like, you know that's what we're going to like. And to me, the scene I almost kind of forgot about from it, that I'm like, this might be the best scene, you know, up there with some of the best scenes so far. Data and Riker in 10 Forward, with, I believe it's Rick Colby directing this one.
Yeah.
close up on their faces, and just Data asking the question, why don't we feel loss for people that we don't know, like we do people we know? And Riker saying, well, if we did, the world would be a lot less bloody. Goosebumps.
I'm getting it right. I'm getting them right now, literally. And writer on this one, Ronald D. Moore.
And it was his first episode.
That's right.
Yeah, and I guess he just kind of sent this in as like, hey, I want to be on the show. Like he was a Star Trek fan, and they were like, I'm sure they were like, this is fucking great. Yeah, hire this guy. And then he just came on and took over.
Yeah, that episode is like the one that like, okay. You know what I mean? Like if I can get some more of this is, yeah.
Sos G Bedlak So.
Number 2, pal. What do you got?
My number 2. And can I just say, bro always stalls. Can I just say, I originally had this in a different order right before we did this, and The Bonding actually was my number 2. But I just have been thinking about it so much, and I've been revisiting these, and I just feel like there are certain reasons I put these above. I'll try to remember it, but my number 2 is The Enemy.
Where does it end, Worf? If that Romulan dies, does his family carry the bitterness on another generation?
And I know that might be like a surprising one, but I just love the story so much. And above all else, it's one of those, this and number 1, make me think of Star Trek. Like when someone asks me, like, what do you love about Star Trek? Like, I love the Enemy. Like Geordi being stuck on this planet, enemy mine style, with a Romulan, a Star Trek villain, and him having to work together with him to get back. But even more than that, the fucking Worf storyline with the blood and not giving it to the Romulan. And of course me, like, oh, it's episodic. Like me thinking like, oh, he'll give in or something will happen where he has to do it. And the resolution being Picard letting him make his own decision when Worf almost wanted him to order him. Like he almost wanted to be like, please just order me because I know I should do it, but I can't get myself to do it. And him not ordering him, then followed up by the call to Beverly. Don't go after Worf anymore. It's not necessary. He's passed away. It's like, oh my. And now it's like, sorry, bro. Like, even if Worf had a change of heart, you missed your chance.
The balls is every other TV show ever would have that same episode arc. Wrap it with Worf with the, like the balls be like, let's take this a bit slower. We have time. Or even if they didn't know they had time, it's like, what if they thought like, oh, I hope we get renewed for more seasons, but just like the gall to be like, no, Worf's not doing that.
Yeah, and then everything with Geordi and the Romulan. Geordi, losing his visor, no longer working on the planet. The Romulan hurt his legs, so Geordi has to be his legs, and the Romulan has to be his eyes. Like, just amazing. Everything with them. And only episode, I think, where I myself have created a meme. The congratulations. I made that. I put the subtitle. I put the text on there, and I've sent that to my wife. I've sent that on the Patreon. Like, congratulations.
Congratulations.
It's just so awesome, and fits so many situations. And got to be Geordi's best episode. I mean, he's had really good ones besides this, but like this got to be his best one. So that really put it up there for me. And then also Tom Balak too. We hadn't talked about him yet. The Romulan guy on the screen, who's in a couple episodes. He was introduced here. Really good.
He was an Enemy and Defector, right?
Yeah. And one last thing I want to say on it with Worf, the scene with Dr. Crusher and the scene with Riker. First, the scene with Riker where he's like, imagine if we did this with Klingons. You wouldn't even be here. We'd have never had peace. You got to get over it. And then the scene with Crusher where Worf's like, if Romulans killed your parents, you'd understand. And she's like, well, this Romulan didn't kill your parents. And it's like, damn.
Yeah.
It's real.
I keep mentioning this damn episode, but similar to Balance of Terror. With
probably because it's good.
Yeah, it's
we were wrong.
We were really wrong about that episode. Yeah, about what was his name? Smith, whatever. But
Styles.
Yes,
I just think of AJ Styles every time.
Styles. Where he was racist against Romulans because now they're Vulcans. Mm-hmm. So it's like there's no room for the bigotry on the bridge. I won't allow it. You never had anything to do with that war. Blah blah blah.
But like the evolution of the storytelling that, it's not the Romulan goes into a gas-filled room and saves Worf, so Worf gives him the blood. It cuts it off because it's like this character has room to grow. And that's nothing against TOS. Different time in TV. They had to do that.
Yeah.
But plus it's like a character of the week, so who cares? Styles. But yeah, loved it.
Yep.
Do not continue to enlist the cooperation of Lieutenant Worf.
I won't have to, Captain. The Romulan has died.
Honorable mentions, go ahead.
All right, honorable mentions. Let me scroll pull the episode. Well, first one is this might have surprised you, but I'm sorry, but The Offspring. It's like I said, those bottom 5, bottom 4, really interchangeable. I love that episode. I love Jonathan Frakes directing. I love his little gag. It's just
it didn't hit you the way it hit me on
it
that
didn't
one.
hit. Yeah,
Yeah, like Sins of the Father for me. Like I liked it, but it hit you a little bit more.
Right. Let's see. Let me go through all the episodes here just to make sure I got everything.
Okay, well, I mean, I can name
I think,
mine.
I think honestly, I'm looking through all these. I think this. Oh, Deja Q. Yeah, Deja Q.
Yeah. You said in the wrap up you liked that more.
I did like that more. It's not making any lists. I love John DeLance's growth in his character. Him hanging out with Data, like one who doesn't want to be human and one who does. We get to see Data laugh. But yeah.
Yeah, and speaking of Deja Q, I'll go to the patrons' honorable mentions. They have Deja Q in their honorable mentions. Oh, for giving us so much shit about not loving the episode doesn't even make your top 10. That's interesting. Guess it wasn't that great. Wow, crazy. Maybe you guys just need to enjoy it. All right. Anyway, calculating the list, I'm like, you got to be kidding me, dude. I thought this was going to be top 5 for all the shit we got. Well, maybe if the YouTube comments to the list, it'd be higher.
Yeah.
They also have on their honorable mentions that just missed the list, The Most Toys, another one we didn't care for as much as them, and The Bonding didn't make their list.
Really?
Yeah, it's in the honorable mentions, and to be honest, like, I think there was a couple people who had it really high on their list, like us, so that, like, bumped it up to even what it's at, but it wasn't on a lot of lists. I think that's the one that we were like, oh, we love this. That was our, like, In Truth, No Beauty this season of, like, oh, we love this, and everyone's like, oh, really, this one? You know?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, we usually have one of those where it's like middle of the road for everyone else. Like that one, but it just hits us a lot harder.
Yep. And then for my honorable mentions, I gotta mention Allegiance. I feel like our reaction probably led people to think we liked that a lot more. I think it was because it was on that hot streak of the season and it was really good. This is the one where Picard's in the escape room.
Yeah.
And I still do really like it, but this is the one where I will agree, like, yeah, will this hit as hard on a rewatch? Probably not. And, like, I really liked that first watch, but is there much to go back to? I liked the makeup. I liked Picard singing in the 10 Forward.
Yeah, that's one of those ones where there's a lot of good stuff, but it's not making my list.
Yeah. Also, I have The Ensigns of Command. I actually really liked that one. That was episode 2. And the ship stuff with Picard is great, like with the alien, and he has to convince him and go through the contract and find the clause, and he gets to hang up on him after getting hung up on. I liked all that, and then but really down on the planet with Data and the character he was with, they had a nice little story, tiptoed into romance, but not really. And I just love probably my favorite of my own joke of the season where he's giving the speech to all the people and I'm like, let's get Data on some college campuses because it is all those TikTok videos of just people on college campuses, big crowds around them. Like, let's get Data there. Also, that one guy was completely cut and they 80-yard all of his lines with another actor. That's
right.
Weird.
Yeah, every single line of his cut. Didn't they say his voice was too deep or something or too...
They just didn't like it.
They
wanted it to sound like John Wayne or something. I don't know. Okay, it's number 1 time.
Number 1 time.
So I'll go first.
Yep.
My favorite episode of season 3, believe it or not, is The Defector.
I did it for nothing. My home, my family. For nothing.
This goes back to the same thing I said about The Enemy. Ironic, they're both these Romulan episodes that are pretty close together with Tomalak, but The Defector is why I love Star Trek. I had no idea which way this was going to go. I was fully invested, and one could even make the argument that this is kind of like a Cold War scenario, and that's not my, usually, like Balance of Terror, I wasn't into it first, like stuff like that, but this did it so well with that character of Jarok, and that actor. I think he's my number 2 so far, TNG guest actor, right below Kalar. I would put Jarok in. It sucks that he died at the end, so we're not getting him again, probably. But maybe the actor comes back, I don't know, in another role. But everything about this episode just knocked it out of the park for me. I was shocked. I was interested. I would love... I watched our reaction to this, but I would love to watch the full episode to it again over the years. And just his story, his character, so relatable and, like, honorable, honestly. Like, for the Romulans, such an unhonorable species in this season. Like, for him to, what you said about his daughter and everything, and for it to just be a setup, like, that, this is the episode where I hated the Romulans moving forward, like, biggest op. Like, I love the, the Borg is a great big villain, but, like, Romulans is, like, it elevated them for me. It's like, ah!
Yeah, I want to bring this up just to talk shit because I was going through our comments on episode 1 of this season. Like, oh, maybe you hate Stubbs because he's supposed to be a hateable character. No. Stubbs has go away heat.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is bad heat. Like the Romulans in this episode have like it's like I'm in there with my crew and like seeing this guy die, who I feel like I know because his performance was so great and his story was so sad with his daughter and his wife, where I'm like. Fuck these motherfuckers.
Yeah, and the way that it's like an inside job where like, yeah, it's like I hate Tomalak for it, but he kind of just represents the Romulans as a whole. Like, all these other people were in on it. So it was such a great twist to make me just hate the whole government organization, their whole society. Like, they will even turn on their own, which it's like, look, it's not just them. I'm sure in the real world, like, Americans have probably done it. Like, it's probably happened to people who work in like CIA type things all the time. But for this to happen, and then that last scene, which I think, gets skipped over a lot when we talk about this episode, the last scene where he does end his own life in the letter, and just that little shred of hope. Like, he knows we wouldn't have been able to get this to him, and he's like, no, but maybe one day. Oh, I just got chills. Like, favorite episode of the season. Yeah, it's not Yesterday's Enterprise. It's not, Best of Both Worlds. But I mean, this was high up on their list, I think, too. I think this was 5 for them or something, and you had it around the same area.
Yeah, pretty close.
So I get that placing, but this one, just for me personally, is what hit the most.
He must have known it would be impossible for us to deliver it.
We may hope to see a day of peace when we can take his letter home.
The least shocking thing, or the least shocking part of the day, Captain... Oh, there it is. Sins of the Father.
I will die for the Empire. Lieutenant, the tidings will be silent!
Les Landau, Ronald D. Moore, teleplay. Yeah, this episode, it's like, I fucking love Worf. I really do. And this episode just did all these plot flips, and just... Worf just wants to be a Klingon so bad. And like the resolution of this story and seeing what's happening in the Klingon homeworld, where it's like the politics and how like he's got to take the fall so like others may live, others may not die, and basically Captain America Winter Soldier, where it's like he's got to become the best Klingon. But by doing that, he's turned on by his own homeworld with one of my favorite episode endings ever. It's one of my favorite episode reaction endings ever, where it just ends with his brother, everyone else turning their back on him. He walks out, credits. It's like, it's like this and the bonding. Just like the past 2 days, I'm like, what do I pick? But like this Worf wins both of them. They're basically tied at this point. This is a minuscule difference, but my reaction and feelings toward this episode are just so strong. This is why I love Star Trek. It's just great. I wish I can keep talking about it, but I feel like I've already repeated a lot of the same idea points I had. If I can think of more, I will, but it's great.
Yeah, and I won't put any pressure on you for this, but for me personally, yeah, Sins of the Father I had obviously lower than you, but, in general, like, Worf episodes are all bangers, and, like, if I was thinking about so far in the show, like, I'd probably go number 3, Heart of Glory, the first season Worf episode. Number 2, The Defector. And then number 1, The Emissary from last season, a Worf episode. Mm-hmm. Like, Worf is the man. And, like, it's so hard for me because of that to even, like, choose a favorite character, because so many of them I love so much by this point that it's like, can I just, like, it's just an ensemble. Like, I love the crew, and it's just crazy how many good episodes every single character can have, and he's also a huge reason for me for the enemy, for his storyline with that. So it's just, Michael Dorn, give all the credit to him, but also the writing on this show to give him all this. He could just be the Klingon in the background, but no, like he is sometimes. Sometimes, sure, yeah, but it's like they all are sometimes, but it's true. But it's he just every time it's like there isn't any character or actor in this crew that I feel like when it's their episode I go, it's like every single one, like Troy had great episodes in this season. Like, it's just everybody. It's just, they're all great.
People have had bad episodes too, but Worf is the guy, no matter if it's a 60-yard pass downfield or just like a hand, it's like, he's taking it to the end zone every single time. I started the show like, Data's my guy. I still love Data, but Worf is my favorite character.
Yeah.
With all these episodes and just Worf's my guy. And his scenes with him and Picard in this episode too, where like, Worf chooses him to be, his guy to represent him down there, or to be his like right-hand man. I forget what the term is. All that stuff. Yeah, I should probably rewatch that. That's a good episode.
Yeah, and for me, just to hit on favorite character real quick so far, like Beverly was season 1, and then she was gone in season 2. I said, okay, well now it's Worf, and then season 3 she's back. But then in addition to those two, now I really love Data. Like Data was good in the first couple seasons, but now like the Offspring and his moment in the bonding, and like, obviously last season too, Measure of a Man, but like I just between those three, I mean I love all of them, but like between those three specifically, I don't think I'll have to think about it. Like, it's hard for me to choose. It's crazy, man. The character writing in this is why it's so great. And we got good character writing in TOS, but with TNG, it's just taking it to that next level. And I can't wait for season 4. I'm so excited.
Neither can I.
Hopefully it's not a bad first episode yet again. Wait, it can't be. It's the conclusion to the cliffhanger.
Oh, right.
If that's bad, that's not
good. They hired the same guy who wrote it, right?
The same guy did it, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, you're coming back. Because he was like, good luck figuring this out, bye.
Yeah. All right. Well, now I just say this for the end because I thought this was really funny. There's a few facts I have about this that I wanted to say. So,
okay.
I already, like I said, we have the weighted system, to calculate the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
These top 2 episodes, I'm sure you all can guess what they are by now for them, blew past everybody else. Like, it was like the other 8 and then these 2, and they were tied down to the exact point. So I had to pick the number 1 by what had the most number 1s. Which, again, they were pretty close. But what I thought was funny is they were, well, I'll say what they are first, and then I'll give this fact. So the number 2 for the patrons is the Best of Both Worlds. And then the number 1 is Yesterday's Enterprise. But again, keep in mind, they were tied. The only reason Yesterday's Enterprise is number 1 is because of the more number 1s. Were you going to say something?
I feel like that's so typical.
Yeah, like it's like,
of course.
I feel like anytime you amalgamate a bunch of lists, it's like, yeah, these are obviously like...
Yeah, like my top 2, like, are they the best ever? Yes, to me they are. But they're also very personable to me. While the bonding in their list is like maybe not be personable to them.
Yeah.
So I get it. Because I always pick my number 1s on more personable than the quality of the episode, per se.
I mean, yeah, I think it's both. But also to them, like... A lot of these people, I'm assuming, not everybody, but like they got to watch Best of Both Worlds in person when it aired and be like, holy shit, and have their minds blown.
True.
And they got to watch Yesterday's Enterprise, completely something different than they've ever seen, and Tasha coming back, So that's why this is so great, the different perspectives, And both of these episodes were in our list. It's not like we didn't like them.
Yeah.
But no, I agree with you to where it's like, yeah, if you had asked me, like, yeah, that's the favorite for them. But I also just wanted to share, I thought this was really funny. The whole time calculating the list, I was going through everybody's list that they sent me. On so many lists, it was like Yesterday's Enterprise number 1, Best of Both Worlds, somewhere between 2 and 4. Occasionally flipped, but then every time Best of Both Worlds was number 1, Yesterday's Enterprise was number 2. So Yesterday's Enterprise in the scoring was always like, 10 or so points above Best of Both Worlds. It's like, okay, this is kind of what it's going to be. But then there was one patron whose number 1 episode was Best of Both Worlds, and the only one that had Yesterday's Enterprise not on their list at all.
So that screwed up the whole thing.
And that was Dimitri. So congratulations, Dimitri. You were the only patron. You were the reason these were tied. So Yesterday's Enterprise still ended up winning out because it had the most number 1s, but I thought it was going to be hilarious while calculating it if Best of Both Worlds ended up, the winner because of that one list. But they were neck and neck the whole time. So
that's funny.
Those are the 2 favorites for them. Yeah, probably the best list. I'm gonna have to go back. I'm gonna look back at TOS season 1 of what my list was on that and see like how many of those were like S tier before they started falling off. But we're actually we are going to be doing TOS tier list sometime in the future.
Yes,
sometime. We gotta try to refresh ourselves a bit more to be prepared, but we'll do that eventually.
Well, I have a box set that was sent to us by James Botas. Thanks you very much. So I've been catching up on my own, just on casual viewings before going to bed of TOS. And God, every time I watch it, I'm like, why didn't we watch this on a TV? Why did we start? I mean, we had no idea this would become what it was going to become. I mean, driving to your place for just for the love of the game.
Yeah.
And we didn't have like a setup or anything like this.
Yeah. And, also with that too, so between this break, the last couple seasons we've had some TOS revisited. We're not going to do that this time just because I think we're going to refresh ourselves a little bit more generally so we can do that tier list, because I would love to be able to get that done, not too far in the future so that we can have every season tier listed so that one day we can have a giant tier list.
Every episode of Star Trek tier list.
Because I'm all about the ranking, the media. You got to rank it.
That'd be really fun if, like, every episode tier list, but we don't do it from the beginning to end. We put it in a randomizer, you know, so it doesn't get stale. Like, because like we go all the way from like the Man Trap to whatever the last episode of Enterprise is.
Oh yeah, just randomized. They have to go through every single one.
Yeah.
Like a charity stream. The charity is us.
Alex and Josh, feel the target audience on a cosmic journey, feeling so immense. They're sitting in a room, ready for the show. Star Trek Next Generation, Season 3, let's go! Another TNG episode, now in the books. Did TA hate it, or did they get hooked? Will they ever get it? We may never know. TNG Season 4, let's go! Warns me